Hey! Hi everyone, this is Apples and Snakes at Home. You can see I'm really excited. I decided to come with the energy that I would if this was a live gig. I want this to be a vibe. I want this to be a party. I've got two brilliant poets here with me. We've got Suhaiymah Manzoor-Khan. We have the inimitable Harry Baker and an exclusive commission from Tyrone Lewis. We are so happy that you have joined us. This is just a real honor to be here, hosting poets that I admire, poets that I rate. Apples and Snakes are responding to the current moment with COVID. Just because we can't go out doesn't mean that you can't still enjoy the best live poetry that the UK and indeed the world has to offer. We're really hoping that you can follow Apples and Snakes on Twitter, on Instagram. You can find out more about the gigs that we're putting on. And just keep abreast of all the poetry news and events that will be happening during COVID and beyond, if there's a beyond. Dun, dun, dun. Let's keep it light. Let's keep it buoyant. Yes. There are going to be 4 more gigs in this series. Next week, we are going to be having the brilliant Toby Campion and the resplendent. You can see me really searching for the adjectives, but I'll just keep a thesaurus next to me, and I'll just keep changing them up. Don't worry. The resplendent. Who is it? Kareem Parkins Brown. There we go. Got a lot of names to keep up with in my head. They're both brilliant UK poets, and I'm really excited for you to see their work. So please join us next week as well, where they'll be reading. And we'll also have another commission piece from Remy Graves. So loads to look forward to. But now I want to open up with a poem that I saw on Twitter today. Fresh poetry, fresh out the kitchen. And on Twitter, if you follow poets, please do follow the poets that we've got on today. You can find out so much more about poems and poets that are writing at the moment, responding to the current pandemic, and particularly where we place artists in terms of our priorities. You know, should the government be funding a bailout for us? What is the purpose of art in times like this? And, these are really important questions. And I feel like this poem that I'll give you a snippet of really gets to the heart of how we think about art and how we value art in our society. This is a piece by Madhu Raghavendra. I was not acquainted with their work before today, and I'm very glad to be now. So this is a little snippet. Please go check him out after this. This is called Artist. I don't mind being the non-essential. Even a child takes its mother for granted. It does not run back to its mother until it's hurt. Nobody thinks of water when they arrive at an exquisite dinner party until they are choking. Art is non-essential until it's not. That's just a little snippet there from what I feel is a really succinct and beautiful exploration of what art means for us, how it makes us human, how it makes us reflect on what it is to be alive, particularly when times are difficult. But that will be enough from me for now. I want to get into some of this brilliant poetry. So allow me, because I'm about to get really gushy, right? But it's only right when I've picked these poets myself, right? So it comes from the heart, comes from a real place, guys. Super, super rate everyone in this series. So first up, we have got, well, I call him Has a B because I know him like that, but I don't know if you know him like that. But you might know him as Harry Baker. He is a viral poet, rapper, battle rap MC, owner of apparently some of the most reputable carves in the world. I mean, I don't know, that's the only thing that I can't confirm or deny, people. All I know is that the poems are amazing. He is the king of puns, of wordplay, of the integration of prime numbers and other maths nerdery into the art of poetry. He's just one of the most precious and brilliant resources we have in this country as far as writing and performance is concerned. I'm so happy we have him here with us today. And without further ado, let's hear from him. Harry Baker, everyone.
Hey, friends.
Hey.
Hey, Vanessa. Thanks for having me. It's nice when it's your job to say nice things about me, you know? I feel like because we're friends, there's that understood level of love, but never explicitly said. So I feel like I would love to do more gigs hosted by you. Thank you for that. You've inspired me. We did a gig about a month ago, and you just brought a new level of energy. And I thought that had to come from the audience, but turns out we can bring it ourselves. So
Gotta be,
thank you.
It's like self-sourcing puddings. You know, when you make like a sticky toffee pudding and like it like generates its own sauce.
Yeah.
Or like a chocolate fondant. It's like that. You've got to be your own chocolate fondant. The metaphor fell apart.
Sure.
Even as it was.
Out its source, I feel it.
Yeah.
I feel like your introduction for me, a lot of it applies to you. I feel like battle rapper, viral poet. That's a new string to the bow. Welcome to the gang.
Gassing me. Look at you.
You know, I just think we hold a lot. And also master of puns, but you sort of keep it secret. I try and make a living out of my puns. You just deal with them on the slide. So I'd like to dedicate this first one to you, actually.
Oh, thanks, mate.
For my birthday, Vanessa sent a secret poem that's never allowed to see the world, but it involves some very good puns, because as Bristol City poet, she had a cool sort of bread vibe going on for a while. And as with many people in lockdown, I've got into bread in a big way. The gig I did with Vanessa, she brought a friend along who stole the show, Ollie the Octopus. And I've actually brought a friend along for this gig. So just for context, this is Daniel Breddingfield hanging out. And I saw a piece where someone said, so cliched, so what? And that's what I'm holding on to, because I started making bread, but it was passed down to me by my father, and it's brought us closer. And I think that's worth celebrating. So this a Father's Day poem I wrote this year in honor of learning how to make sourdough bread. And it goes like this. To start, you fed me every day. Checked in to see how I was growing. When done right, you're set for life. You just need help to get things going. You taught me patience and precision. When it comes to hate and greed, as with your 3-day recipe, you showed there simply is no need. When things got sticky, you'd make sure I'd take it with a pinch of salt, that I would stretch myself before you'd always bring me to the fold. You've got me covered. On the days it takes to get into the groove, just like that dough, you let me know when I've got nothing left to prove. Your love is gluten, and I still cannot quite describe what it is. But I'm grateful you brought me up to be tolerant of these things, because potential is like yeast. It's been in the air this whole time. Sometimes it just needs activation before we can see it rise. So thanks for keeping me alive, for building me to so much more. You show me kindness is fresh bread, and it is best when it's served.
Beautiful. So Suhaiymah, have you been baking? Have you been doing the whole bread thing?
The thing is, my sister is like the baker in the house, and I'm sort of, what I like to think of myself as is like the beneficiary of the baking. So I didn't realize that everyone was baking. So I thought this was unique to our house. And I was saying to like my friends, I was like, yeah, my sister, I don't know if you guys know, but like she's making banana bread and it's delicious. And everyone was like, Suhaiymah, like, and I think when you said the thing at the start then, Harry, about it's cliche, but so what? You said it way back. It's so cliche, so what? That resonated because I didn't realize that I was living a cliche life. Yeah. Have you been baking?
Have I been baking? I've been about that baking life.
Okay.
Although I've been about that life. Yeah. Although I've upgraded. So like when lockdown first came into play, I was upgrading from your sort of bog standard loaves to focaccias and the type of things that you usually can't be bothered to make when you're going out and about and living life. But yeah, when lockdown came into force, I was like, okay, time for those real time wasty recipes.
Wow. Do you think if you both went on Bake Off, who do you think would, not to put you on the spot, but...
Okay, that's interesting. I think Harry would charm the British public more than I would. I think I'd probably fall foul to the scary, angry black woman on TV. We don't like it, flex. Because, you know, I'd be hella confident. I'd roll up there hella confident, and people don't like it when black women are confident about our abilities. And yeah, you know, my last focaccia was actually slightly Cajun style, i.e. burnt. So I don't know about that. But Harry, please do hit us up with some more poems.
Okay, well, in terms of bringing the energy, I think it's such a weird thing to do a poem and then just get nothing back. And it made me think of like all the different responses you do get, and some gigs it's very kind of cerebral and you get the sort of and people like to do the clicks. And then doing things like rap battling, like you'll do a line and someone will just like shout from the back of the room like, fuck off. And you're like, oh my God, that's a compliment. And you just realise how visceral that connection with people could be. So whereas doing these live gigs feels quite different because, dare I say it, I expect some applause normally, or like laughter or something like that. Actually, the school gigs I've done over Zoom have been exactly the same, because even in person, teenagers will give you nothing. Like, that was the biggest training ground for me, was to do an hour long of poems where I'm trying to be funny and be met by like the judgmental stares of teenagers who don't want to be there. And also, like, sense of humor is such a weird thing, and like you're trying to like get kids to like you, I feel like it makes you uncool, and I always need to be liked, and I can't take it. There could be like 200 kids watching and there's one kid in the front who clearly isn't having a nice time, and I just think for an hour I'm going to try and make you like me, forget it. But I'm bringing the energy. This is something that requires no one else. I'm going to play some music. It's my own music though, so I've got the rights, and it's because I miss the joy of performing. And this song is entirely in German. I lived in Germany for a year and I learned to love their language. And I think as a poet, learning a language, there's more toys to play with. And there's an unfair trope that German isn't a beautiful language. And I think that's just because when people hear German, or when people try and stereotype Germans, they just do it in an angry way. And I think you could say any language in an angry voice and it would sound angry. So this is my claim to sort of just do a bit of sort of pro-German language propaganda. And the method I've chosen is sort of a summer house. And so the hook, so viele Leute, just means so many people. And the kind of, the main message is lots of people think German is not beautiful, but they forget the truth. So I'd just like to bring that to you. And it's impossible to not bring energy to this, so I just hope the internet can cope.
We're with you.
Can you hear that back and track okay? It just makes me so happy. I mean, so viele Leute vergessen, dass Deutschland schönes Frecke ist. Aber warum nicht? So viele Leute vergessen, dass Deutschland schönes Frecke ist. Aber warum nicht? So viele Leute vergessen, dass Deutschland schönes Frecke ist. Aber warum nicht? So viele Leute vergessen, dass Deutschland schönes Frecke ist. Take it to the chorus. So viele Leute, so viele, so viele, so viele, so viele Leute, so schöne, so schöne, so schöne, so viele Leute, so deutsch, so deutsch, so viele Leute, warum nicht? So viele Leute, so viele, so viele, so viele, so viele Leute, so schöne, so schöne, so schöne, so viele Leute, so deutsch, so deutsch, so deutsch, so viele Leute. Eichhörnchen. Heiße Wasserflasche. Nacktschnecke. Glühbirne. Kühlschränke. Streichelschachtel. Falafellöffel. Falafel. Jawohl, so viele Leute, so viele Leute, so viele Leute, so schöne, so viele Leute, so deutsch, so viele Leute. Jawohl, so viele Leute, so schöne, so viele Leute, so deutsch, so viele Leute, so viele Leute. Take it to the bridge. Ba-boom. Ba-boom, 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 ba-boom. Ba-boom, 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 ba-boom. Ba-boom, 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 ba-boom. So viele Leute. So viele Leute. So viele Leute. So viele Leute. Dankeschön, bitteschön, Dankeschön, bitteschön, Dankeschön, bitteschön, alles schön, schön, Dankeschön, bitteschön, alles schön, total schön, Dankeschön, bitteschön, warum nicht?
I don't want to ever hear again that poetry is dull. I don't want to hear it because listen, you learned some vocabulary in a new language. You know, we took you to Ibiza, we took you to the gym. Did you not see the little bicycle legs? You know, ab crunch. What more could you want? You know, I mean, wow. Talk about multidisciplinary approach. Talk about innovation. Talk about whatever you want to talk about. It's happening right here in front of your eyes for free, may I add. I mean, wow. Does it get more opportune than that for you as a human being currently watching this right now? I don't think it does. Suhaiymah, how are you feeling after that?
Honestly, I feel like I need to. That's gonna take me a while to process, Harry. That was unlike anything I've seen in a Zoom call that I've had in the past 3 months, and I thank you sincerely for that.
And you really were a self-sourcing pudding. Like
oh my God.
You didn't need anyone or anything. That the vibes were so wholly self-generated, you know? And that's not easy. That's not easy in these streets. But wow. I mean, just an example for all of us. Harry, do feel free to wrap up with another poem, and then I'm going to get into the quiz portion of the event, which is going to be very serious, very mastermind-like. I mean, no, it's not. It's going to be ridiculous. But we'll get to that in a minute. Harry, please do share another piece for us.
I think what I did with that last piece, not to over-explain it, is pull your heart out and be met with silence can feel like a disappointment. You know, you tell a joke, you don't get a laugh, something's missing. But to have designed a piece of art where the only acceptable response is stunned silence for hours, if not days, I realised if there were 1,000 people here with me, the noise would be the same. It would be a sort of awestruck silence. So I think that's what I'm kind of learning about this, is that if you engineer a certain response you want, that you know you're going to get, then it's 100% success rate. So thank you for that. And on that note, I'd like to end with something, dare I say, equally powerful. It's been hinted that I do have some calves. They're actually below the screen so that we don't mess with YouTube's censorship policies. But this poem I wrote after spending a weekend with Vanessa and friend of the show, Holly Niche, and just talking about what the world expects of you and how you're not supposed to be proud of your body. You know, you're supposed to need to buy products to be happy. And I think it was compounded yesterday. Went to sort of, have a sort of socially distanced chat with Grace's nan, and the first thing she said was, "You honestly cannot let yourself get any thinner," and that kind of echoes some of the comments on the internet when I share poems. People are worried about my well-being, and I'm honestly fine. But I just thought, as a sort of act of self-empowerment, I'd share this poem. So this is it's about my knees, and it goes like this. I have incredible knees. Such is the legend of my knees that bees use these as a point of comparison. When insects come across a particularly great leaf or piece of dirt, they turn to one another and say, now this is the Harry's knees. I have incredible knees. Such is the appeal of my knees that any day while away in long shorts with a slight breeze runs the risk of becoming what I can only describe as a 1954 Marilyn Monroe style photo opportunity. I just have incredible knees. Sometimes when I walk along, I will catch their inflection in a shop window or a puddle or the tear-filled eyes of a passerby and think, you know what? Yes. Each time a stranger sees my knees, they fight the urge to seize my knees. Campaigns are made to free my knees. When I die, they might freeze my knees. Neo was so sick of love songs till he saw my knee, yo. My knees make your knees weak at the knees. For my knees, your knees get down on one knee. They ask my knees to join your knees in holy matrimony. My knees said, wait and see. My knees have been known to tease. Such is the stress level when my kneecaps lock that to sufficiently express you would need caps lock. Academics have proposed theses to make my knees a protected species. My knees, they don't need protecting, thank you, they do as they please. I just have incredible knees. Websites discuss conspiracy theories of whether there exists a miracle knee gene or if it's more akin to jinn or genies. If you had 3 wishes, would you wish for these knees? Yes, please. You cannot synthesize what lies between my shins and thighs. Don't ask my knees to bend and snap. You know my knees don't bend like that. One time I tried to use these knees to stunt double George Clooney's knees. But a few seconds through these scenes, he asked to reconvene. He said they were upstaging him. I tended to agree. I just have incredible knees. I just have incredible knees. Knees, 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 knee, 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 knees, knees. And then the crowd joins in. Knees, 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 knees. So it goes on forever.
Wow. Harry Baker. No one does it like Harry Baker, people, for better or for worse. See, I'm allowed to clown him because he's a dear friend. And if I didn't clown him, I would just feel constantly intimidated by his wit and brilliance. But thank you so much, Harry. I've been on a journey. I know you watching, you've been on a journey. And yeah, that was just fantastic. It's exactly what I needed. I didn't know I needed it, but wow, I feel 10 times better than I did when I started this Zoom. Rejuvenation, baby. So we're going to go into the quiz portion of this event. So Suhaiymah and Harry, the questions are being posed to both of you, okay? And I need you to just really, really apply some seriousness and some gravitas to this process, because you know these questions are really going to cut to the core of your values as human beings. Okay, so you know, behave accordingly. Okay, so first question: would you rather be pelted with grapes or Ritz crackers? Harry, I'm gonna open the floor to you for an answer to that one.
Easy question. Grapes. I actually would say top 3 skills of mine, not including poetry. Catching grapes from my mouth is one of them.
Oh, right. So you wouldn't even be pelted. You would just be.
I'd like trying to get treat it as a snack, and I'd rather eat a grape than a cracker. Okay.
Suhaiymah, what are you saying?
I mean, I don't have any sort of skills like that, so I was just going to have to go with crackers, simply just from a pain point of view. I think grapes are actually I think you can't underestimate if one hit you, especially if a lot will hit you at the same time. Whereas crackers, they just crumble.
Yeah. Like a grape has more heft than you give it credit for, particularly if it's a really taut grape, you know? I feel like that would, you know.
Also, it could cause a lot of mess if it wasn't a taut grape, actually. If it was like mushy ones, that you'd be covered in like...
Yeah. I hear that. Wow, so that divided the crowd, people. Let us know in the comments below. Like, subscribe. Let us know what you'd rather be pelted with. Okay.
Just to justify, the cracker's got a definite edge. You know, you're not going to get cut by a grape. you're going to get bruised. But
I don't know if you get cut by a crack. I don't know if these are being like...
And one, also,
it's not like
are very salty. So if you're getting like ninja starred by a cracker, that's instant salt in the wounds. And I would say
Oh my God.
Like I said, these questions, they get to the heart of the human condition, right? I warned you guys, we're going in. We're not afraid. We're not afraid of the big questions here at Apples and Snakes. Okay, next. Coffee with Kanye or brunch with Big Bird? Suhaiymah, what are you saying?
It's got to be brunch with Big Bird. I think I just don't want to get sucked into a political conversation, which I feel with Kanye is inevitably going to get a bit stressful. I don't know if I'm best placed to have the conversation I think needs to be had with him. And I think Big Bird, brunch, that seems wholesome. That seems harmless. I think you could get a good selfie there. That selfie couldn't be seen as problematic by anybody. I don't think you get called out or cancelled for it.
Okay, yeah. Thorough explanation there. I like it. Harry, what are you saying?
I have so many questions for Kanye West. I would go for that option. Also, I don't want to get to know Big Bird and have them ruined. I want to keep that pure. So I think Kanye at least know the level I'm going in at and can hopefully be convinced of
You both have some really well thought out arguments there. And, I really feel like that question, it seems innocuous enough, but when you really examine it, it's deeper than you think, guys. Do you know what I mean? You've got to be using a bit of this. So have a think about that. Let us know whether you'd have coffee with Kanye or brunch with Big Bird. All right, last question. What is more egregious? Live, laugh, love, throw pillows, or a full English breakfast in a can? Harry, talk to me. What are you saying?
I don't want to shatter people's illusions of me as a consummate wordsmith, but just in case any of the viewers don't know, could you explain what egregious means, please?
Oh, yeah. Apologies. What's just like the wackiest? Like, what's like the most offensive to your spirit?
Sorry, can I just clarify what the second option was?
The second option was a full English breakfast in a can. And yes, that's a real thing. That exists in the world.
And what was the first? I couldn't concentrate on the options because I was embarrassed at not understanding the question.
Okay. That's my fault for using the word egregious. My bad. I have to justify my 9 grand English lit degree somehow. The question was, what is the wackest to you? Live, laugh, love, throw pillows, or a full English breakfast in a can? Harry, what are you saying?
First one's the wackest. I think you get lots of elements of a breakfast in a can anyway. Beans and sausages, couple soggy croutons, fine, bit of egg. I would say my issue with the first, I think live, laugh, love is egregious enough to me. So throwing pillows, it doesn't make it better, but I don't think it makes it worse.
Okay.
So that's enough damage going on that I want to steer clear from. Breakfast in a tin, I'd go for it.
Okay, wow. That's the most controversial thing you said all day. And you have done an entire sort of rap in German. So I don't say that lightly. Okay, so hey.
I just think maybe we have to sort of question the notion of normalization of canned food, which you just proposed there, Harry, this idea that we already see canned meals. I'm not sure I can get on board with that. And I also think somebody has to stand up for the love, live, laugh, love people. And I think, there was a time when I would have been a love, laugh. For some reason, I find it really hard to remember through the order. Anyway, point is, I think what's the harm? What's the harm of a bit of love, laughter, and life, as opposed to a cat? I'm not saying it's inherently bad to put all of your food in one can, but when I say that, it does make me feel bad. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm not with you on that one, Harry.
Okay, what? You were divided on every turn. Okay, Harry, put his hand up. Make it quick, Harry, because Did
I change my answer as an act of reconciliation? I've been.
Okay.
I think I've fallen foul to the haters. And the answer is live, laugh, love. so cliche, so what, you know? Who am I?
Exactly.
I've been on the other end of that. I think you're right. I retract my support of the canned food industry, and I'd like to change my answer.
Wow. Do you see all the things you're getting? Humility. You're getting respectful discussion. You're getting gastronomical analysis. We're giving you everything. We're giving you fashion. We're giving you poetry. We're giving you like, what more could you want? I beg. Yeah? Like, subscribe, comment, let us know what you think. But I'm going to leave the quiz portion there, as much as I've got some other questions I'd love to ask, but we'll keep that for the end of the event. Okay, now we are going to share a fresh, hot off the press exclusive piece commissioned for the incredible Tyrone Lewis. He is a full-time video editor and also fantastic poet. He is published with Burning Eye Books. His collection Blackish is available to order at wherever you order your poetry books. Spoiler alert, you don't order them on Amazon, okay? Find yourself a more a more ethical source for your poetry book buying. But please do enjoy this new exclusive poem from Tyrone. Thank you.
It's never been in my blood, never been my oxygen. I've never craved it. I don't need it to survive. I don't do poetry because I have to. I do it because I want to. Because I love it. I love the moments. I love the adrenaline rush of words excited to leave my mouth. I love the eager eyes of audiences waiting for my next line, my next reference, my next idea. I love the validation. I love the oohs and the ahs and the clicks. I love that feeling that I'm not alone. I do it for that. I perform for that. I slam for that. Awards? Winning? Yeah, I like winning, but it's not about that. That's not the point. It's about the craft, the storytelling. Every emotion-coated metaphor, every smile-scented simile, every superbly structured stanza. It's about the lines you have to turn into a motivational Instagram post complete with a nondescript nature background. It's about the community. I do it for every other poet that gets up on a stage. I do it to beat every other poet that gets up on a stage. I do it to lose gracefully to every other poet that gets up on a stage. I do it for fun. I do it to laugh, to love, to listen, to learn, to lecture, to let it go, and to list, apparently. I found a home here. And whilst this hobby-related housing market has offered me condos in Dungeons and Dragons and the WWE, I choose to spend my time in the solar-panelled home for poets. I love that in this house, we value the power of pop-up paper people. We theorise what would happen if we had a daughter. We let them eat chaos. Or have some milk and honey if they prefer. Now, if you listen close enough, you can hear that in this house the sound of volcanoes erupting from mouths. We write to the rhythm of heartbeat boxes, whilst our pens are dancing scratches on Muji notebooks. So when we come here, when we come to stages, when I come to stages, I'm here for the awe. I'm here to be blinded by stage lights that are that bit too bright. I'm here to be blinded by intellectual wordplay that's just that bit too bright. I'm here because London stuffs itself with a blend of hip-hop lyricism and laughter, stuffs itself with a mix of politics and power and the potential of what we could be. So let it be heard. Nah, make it be heard. This is not just words. This is not just bedroom scribbles. This is poetry, where the nights are special, where the community is special. And being a poet, that's special. So go and find your moment. Find your feeling. Seek it out. Embrace it. Enjoy it.
Oh, that was such a sick piece. It made me really long for the liveness of poetry. And I'm trying as much as I can to lean into the particular moment we're in now and see the opportunity of it. But that really just reminded me of our community, like he was saying. And I love that he referenced Harry. He referenced Harry in the piece, as well as I think it was Rupi Kaur, Kate Tempest, and again just that acknowledgement that we are a tapestry. You know, I think being a performer, you can often get very caught up in your islandness, to reference your poem, Suhaiymah. But yeah, I don't think we're anything without our influences and our peers in the community. And yeah, it was a lush reminder of that. Harry, what did you reckon?
Loved it. I like the idea of splitting your own personality, and it's all part of one and the same. I know that I have woven so much of myself into my performance that sometimes it's hard to know where those lines are. But thinking of doing that visually as well, I thought that was
yeah, no, that was really innovative. I don't think I've seen that before. And leaning into the Zoom format and, you know, what feels ubiquitous now in the way we're communicating with each other. Yeah, really, really clever. Suhaiymah, what did you think?
Yeah, I mean, I can only agree. I loved that. I thought it was really, also I think it really hits the heart of like both the amusing side of the kind of like competitive nature, but then also with all the love and all the just, yeah, I really enjoyed that. And I think also what you were just saying then, like, I feel like there's so much potential for, as much as we miss those live spaces, like for these digital spaces to also do something. And I guess they're accessible in so many other ways to people as well. And I think there's something here that I felt quite exciting to see that. And I've never seen something like that.
Yeah, totally. And I think, you know, as much as we can look forward to the day when we're gathering in public spaces again, I think we really do need to take the opportunity to grab this new format and do what we can with it to, as you say, embrace the aspects of accessibility that it opens us up to. It's a strange but potentially really creative time. You know, creativity comes from constraints. So yeah, that was a really great example of what you can do to really lean into the Zoom format rather than consider it a curtailing of what you'd normally do. I'd like to now introduce Suhaiymah Manzoor-Khan to do some poetry for you now.
Wow.
This woman right here, let me tell you, okay, the poetry is singular. The voice, the stories and the perspectives that she's expressing, they're necessary, they're important, they're vivid, they're not afraid to pull punches, people. In a world where a lot of people are afraid to say what they really feel, or they're afraid to let their political opinions be misconstrued, so they tread lightly. Suhaiymah ain't on that. Shame on that, right? She's gonna tell you the truth and she's gonna tell you it straight. Yeah, no chaser, right? So this is someone who you really want to be following. She's a really astute voice on the problems around how Islam is portrayed in the media, and many other things besides. I think she's amazing. I'm going to leave her now to demonstrate that for you. Please welcome everyone, Suhaiymah Manzoor-Khan.
Thank you so much. Thank you for such a kind introduction. And it's just such an honor to share this little gig with both of you. And Harry, we haven't actually met before, so it's like really nice to be in this digital space with you. And, you know, it's nice to have discussed things from Big Bird to Throws. And, you know, we've not met in real life. I think that's a great thing. So, yeah, I think, you know, I just think after especially your German poem, I'm just not really like, I just feel so like, whoa, how do I get back in my head? But here I am. And I think the poem I want to start with is, so actually last time that I saw you, Vanessa, we were in a gig in Bristol, if I remember correctly. And Bristol has recently obviously hit the news with the fantastic video that brought me great joy of Edward Colston being thrown into the river. And this poem is not particularly specifically about that, but it's a poem that I had written previously about history and I suppose the importance of history as a tool for controlling the present. So it's called Where is My History? My history is imprinted in the spaces between the ink printed on pressed pages. My history is the screams shouting out through the silent slots in syllabi. It is caged in glass cases, said to be for its own safety by the institutions which narrate it as their own. Because my history lies in the choices not recorded about which stories should be hoarded and called archives. And my archives are the chicken shops, the taxi stops, the back seats of rentals, the inside hems of headscarves, women's conversations, women's congregations, women's contemplations, which you won't find in your local heritage site. No, because my history is the shame of your history. The body buried in the back garden with no gravestone, but in fact not so shameful, no, for it is also adorning your proudest buildings, the ones unsearched before entering, as if my bringing something in would be disturbing, as if my things weren't already coveted and stolen, sorry, read, salvaged and reallocated to make up these museums in the first place. It's almost as if history is less about what happened than maintaining ideology. Because when you investigate a story with half the participants absent, and don't worry about the translation, want only to fit the narrative to the nation, then is it surprising that what's surmised is that my history is not? That my past is culture and ancient kingdoms, never politics or philosophy. My ideas are religion and oriental, tribes, norms, and alternative remedies, whilst yours are universal teleologies and superior methodologies. No. It's no surprise my past is passed over and pushed into the peripheries despite being palpable in every premise of what gives Britain history. Because to find it would be to remember that if Britain is Tudors and Victorians, is also slavers and plantations, the colonies and the colonised. To find my past would be to remember that every object in the museum that is said to be objectively seen was plundered and stripped of value for the perusal of researchers and big purses to spectate and win awards. Whilst those of us who are still seen as backwards, who don't get the time or space to explore artefacts, are in fact the outcome of their unnarrated relations to colonial plunder and salvation. So, when you ask where my past is, ask instead what yours is without mine.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask Suhaiymah, I imagine inevitably you perform to a lot of liberal, and I mean that in the good but also the slightly mocking sense, audiences engage with your work and tend to agree with you. But what have the voices of dissent, which I'm sure there are plenty of as well, what are the voices of dissent? What do those feel like to receive? And do you feel like it's your job to sort of try and sway the naysayers? Or like, what do you feel the actual end goal is of writing about the things you do, and what would you hope for people to take from it, especially if they're not already on board with your message?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think I'd be interested to know what you guys think, but I think for me, poetry, one of the most important tools that it gives us is a tool of disruption. And so oftentimes I'm not really actually looking to necessarily get that immediate vibe where someone's like, yes. I mean, that's a brilliant one. I love those gigs as well, where it's just all about affirming one another. But I do think what's quite exciting is to be able to disrupt and go, okay, what happens if I question that logic? What happens if we push that logic to its furthest conclusion? Because I think a lot of times people will agree up to a point about structural racism or structural violence in general. And I think poets, I believe, like historically, have always been those people who kind of ask us to imagine to its furthest possible, question mark, I guess. And I always think poets, I think of poets as, people who have been imprisoned, people who have been revolutionaries, people who have been at the forefront of kind of anti-colonial resistances. And in that sense, I think it's almost the responsibility to dream and to push people to dream further. So I think sometimes when people receive my poetry in a way that's sort of uncertain or unsure, I like to think that there is also a kind of, there's something also in my poetry that I like to think would sort of invite you to also think further rather than to kind of repel you and think if you're not with me, then that's it, it's the end of the conversation. But yeah, I think, I tend to find people are engaged and they're willing to have those conversations. And particularly if you're coming to a poetry event, I feel like you're already willing to kind of be pushed and to think and to feel. And I think feeling is something that we can only do through poetry, not through making a speech about these things necessarily.
Brilliant, thank you. And Harry, I'd be interested to know, I think a lot of people are pondering this at the moment. Do you recall what you learned about Britain's history and specifically its colonial history when you were young? Because I certainly don't recall any particular and specific acknowledgement of that aspect of British history. So I'm interested in what your experiences were growing up.
Yeah, no, not at all. I mean, I went to Bristol for uni and remember seeing things like White Ladies Road and Black Boy Hill and certain like slightly jarring place names and having no idea about why that might be. And it's only, you know, reading Renée Lodge's book where there's a whole chapter on Black British history and realizing Bristol was a huge part of that. And, you know, I wouldn't have questioned why Colston Hall was called Colston Hall, because that's just another name attached to a building, you know. And so in terms of the recent discussions of slave traders and history being a way of acknowledging things or glorifying it, I think there's none of that in school. For me, history is Tudors and Victorians, like you say. And then I did history GCSE, which was in theory a bit more in depth, and that was American Civil Rights Movement, Northern Irish Troubles, like India, but not really acknowledging how messed up the British role was in that. And they were the three topics we did.
Yeah. It's really sobering, and to hear that it's changed sort of not very much / at all, that it's something that can be acknowledged but is not mandatory within the curriculum. I feel like this is the sort of thing that happens a lot with our education. There's an acknowledgement that it will be good to teach people this, but it's not made a part of the curriculum that's as integral as learning about the Tudors or whatever else. It's the same with sex education, you know. There's this, we get excited because the government says, yes, we are making this part of the curriculum. But then when you look at the fine print, there's actually nothing to prevent a school from essentially moving around it because they haven't got the time or the resources to teach their staff to actually address these subjects in a constructive way for their pupils. So they might just avoid it. I look forward to hopefully shifting the needle on that properly in education. There's been petitions going around to have Renée Lodge's book on the curriculum, The Good Immigrant as well. Let's see, I mean, under a Tory government, I don't know, but we live in hope. Suhaiymah, please do share some more poetry with us.
Thank you. Yeah. So I guess this is more of a personal, not, I hate that binary of political personal, but I just tend to never write, I tend to try not to be vulnerable in my poetry, which is something that I think being in lockdown doesn't really allow you to do, because in lockdown, I don't know about you guys, but I felt very introspective and also very isolated, you know, in the way that we all are isolated, but also kind of thinking about isolation more generally. And this is a poem about islands, because my friend, and this is no shade on my friend because we discussed it and we're all good, so no shade, just put that out there. But she sent me a message, which is the beginning of this poem, and then this is my sort of thoughts around that. But yeah, I'd be interested to know, like, how you guys have been experiencing this isolation. So, you have a sense of disconnection sometimes, my friend says. You'd be fine as an island. But no man is an island, that famous poem goes. And I'd add to that, no woman either. There are 6 main types of island, I found out from the National Geographic. 1, continental. Islands that used to be attached to the land, but ocean flooded low-lying areas disconnecting it from the main body. Islands with the memory of being parts of continents, perhaps not really islands at all, but continents with only the waving hand left to show. 2, islands formed by the erosion of links to the land. Avoiding a phone call turns into avoiding fall. Alhamdulillah, I'm fine, how are you? Becomes an avoidant treading water. 3, tidal islands become islands only at high tide. Imagine being mistaken for an island when, from the island's point of view, you are experiencing a flood. You are experiencing being overwhelmed by water, a deluge, being submerged under the weight of something you cannot fathom, disappearing. And all the while, the people call you an island. How beautiful from afar. How perfect for a photo. The tide makes it dangerous to get near it. Watch the tide come in, take a sunset portrait, go home. 4, barrier islands act as barriers. Islands that protect the coast from being battered by storms. Imagine a fortress being mistaken for solitude. Imagine the isolation of standing apart from the land in an attempt to protect it, taking the battering of waves on the other side, but all the landfolk see of you is your distance. 5. Oceanic islands are formed by volcanic eruptions under the Earth's surface. Bubbling rage, centuries of rising magma, hot blood, quick pulse, a lava of emotions that simply appear as a tip of land in a distant ocean. Is it really an island or a buried explosion? 6. The artificial island. Man-made, superficial, not really an island at all. In fact, I wonder if any of these islands would call themselves islands, or if they yearn for the land. Islands can't swim, little known fact. So what if an island is waiting its entire life for the sea levels to go down? What if an island is waiting its entire life for someone to grow tall enough to walk on the land path between it and the shore? What if an island is not an island, but an overwhelmed part of landmass? Cut off, eroded, exploded, disunited, dangerous to cross to, closed off to visitors. Perhaps an island is just a myth, victim of how it appears to the world and how we understand it. Is an island more defined by its proximity to being drowned, or its persistence in remaining just above the water, remaining just in sight of land despite the deluge?
Thank you. And I'd love to hear one more piece from you, if that's okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I always have, I know that like with digital gigs, for some reason, it feels like you should have a bit more of like a sense of what you're going to do, but here I am mixing up my set at the last minute, as ever. I think I'm going to do this poem, just because I think, okay, so one big thing I'm sure you guys have both seen this conversation going on in the, I was going to say the public sphere, but maybe it's just the Twitter sphere, maybe I should specify that, which is around what's the alternative to BAME, let's replace BAME with something, and, I just feel like there's lots that can be said about that. I think BAME is not necessarily something we need to replace. I think it's something we can just get rid of. But yeah, and I think in all these conversations, people are kind of mistaking a conversation about structural violence and structural white supremacy and anti-blackness for, these are conversations about diversity and inclusion. People want to be included. So I don't think, I can just see this conversation being co-opted. And it's happening, from corporations to institutions, and as always does. But so this conversation, this poem is called "Decentering Diversity," and I wrote it specifically for a university, but I think it's quite relevant for different contexts where we're kind of told that the kind of answer to our calls for the abolition of and the demolition of violence are simply to be included in that violence. So, this is specific to universities, you'll see through the language, but I think it's applicable. So, equal access to unjust systems is not liberation. More people of colour on pedagogically unchanged reading lists is not salvation, and no number of black and brown faces in universities can fundamentally undo the racism. Just because they give you a seat at the table doesn't mean they want you to speak at the table. It's a virtuous invitation that reflects well on the host, and the only thing that's better than a generous institution is a grateful beneficiary who will follow the key rule that people of colour should be seen and not heard, fit for open day handbooks, but not safety in academia. Equal access to unjust systems is not liberation. More people of colour on pedagogically unchanged reading lists is not salvation, and no number of black and brown faces in universities can fundamentally undo the racism. Just because they give you a seat at the table doesn't mean they want you to eat at the table. They make out that the racism is the number of students of colour, but not that it's the underestimation of their knowledge, the exclusion of their histories and distortion of their names, the policing of their speech and a culture of surveillance. They make out that the racism is the content of core modules, but not that it's that whiteness is the mark of valued knowledge, the processes that underlie the racist dropout rate, or the lack of mental health services that can understand race. Just because they give you a seat at the table doesn't mean that they'll take their feet off the table. They make out that the racism is the number of academics of colour, but but not that it's the treatment of the other black and brown staff, the cleaners and the caterers, the security on the door, not that it's the fees or the opaque decision-making. Equal access to unjust systems is not liberation. More people of colour on pedagogically unchanged reading lists is not salvation, and no number of black and brown faces in universities can fundamentally undo the racism. Just because they give you a seat at the table doesn't mean they're prepared to change the room.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Suhaiymah. And I think there's definitely been a shift in the conversation. I think neoliberalism was the Kool-Aid that a lot of us were drinking for a while, under the impression that that was what liberation was about. And not just as far as race is concerned, with gender politics and many other things. And it's interesting to see post George Floyd, and it's sad it took this, but I'm seeing more voices speak about abolition and a more radical dismantling than of all these systems than I ever have. So it's a really exciting thing to bear witness to at the moment. And thank you so much for speaking to that so eloquently. And I know you've been doing it since before it became the much bigger and more sort of overflowing volume of voices that it is now. So thank you so much. But as much as I'd love to talk for hours longer with our guests and ask them more weird questions about what Sesame Street characters they would want to go for brunch with, I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this feast of poetry and German rap and discussion around abolition of the establishment. We've covered a lot of bases, so I hope that you're feeling content. This is Apples and Snacks at Home. We are going to be doing 4 more of these every Thursday, so please do tune in again next week, where we have Toby Campion and Kareem Perkins-Brown for the delight of your eyes and ears. I've been Vanessa Kisuule, and it's been an absolute privilege and pleasure. Thank you so much. Take care.